Helen, that's enough. How long are you going to keep up this boring joke?
Knock, knock, knock.
Helen, the woman I'd loved and lived with for 3 years, looked like a stranger. Her face was empty, her eyes hollow, like a lifeless mask. What do you want? My voice cracked, a mix of anger and fear. Helen didn't answer. She just stared at me and spoke.
Knock, knock, knock.
Those 3 words, repeated in a cold, steady rhythm, sent chills down my spine. I couldn't take it anymore. Grabbing my pillow and blanket, I left the suffocating room. This was the 4th night in a row she'd woken me up at exactly 3:27 a.m. I texted an old friend from college, now a psychologist, explaining the strange things happening to Helen. His reply shocked me. Had something really happened to Helen? I decided to tell him everything, holding nothing back. Everything began 4 days ago. We were sleeping together as usual when Helen shook me awake. At exactly 3:27 a.m., she started this strange knock, knock, knock game. I thought she'd just woken up from a bad dream and wanted me to comfort her. So, half asleep, I played along. Who's there? Is it my beloved Helen?
It's not me, so don't open the door.
After her cryptic reply, Helen fell asleep as if nothing happened. The next morning she seemed normal, but at 3:27 a.m., she woke up and repeated it all. The response from my friend left me stunned. I tried to justify it, but his reply was firm, almost certain. I couldn't deny it anymore. In that moment, my trust in Helen began to waver. I shut my laptop and tried to get some rest, but those doubts had already taken root, digging deeper into my mind. In the end, curiosity and doubt won. Helen's sudden appearance unsettled me, but her blank expression only fueled my irritation. I actually set up a hidden camera in the house to spy on my girlfriend. Helen and I were in a cold war. She didn't bother to explain or apologize. That night I couldn't sleep. My nerves were on edge, my heartbeat slowing, steadying, sinking with each tick of the clock. I could almost predict the exact moment it would hit 3:27 a.m. And then, as if caught in an endless, suffocating loop, it all happened again. My patience with Helen had reached its limit. This time I decided to act. I was going to make her stop. I tied Helen to the bed, gagging her with a strip of cloth. I wanted to see if, without my response, without being able to continue her game, she could just shut up and sleep like a normal person. The house was eerily quiet, except for the steady ticking of the clock. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to review the footage from my hidden camera. What I saw made my blood run cold. The Helen in the recordings was unrecognizable. She looked like Helen, but her movements were robotic, stiff, lifeless, like a puppet with its strings being pulled. I had to admit it. Helen was no longer Helen. Or worse, she might not even be human anymore. Suddenly, 3 heavy knocks shattered the silence. Knock, knock, knock. Then a voice, unmistakably hers, called out from behind the door.
Eddie, it's me, Helen.
Her voice was so real. Too real. I checked the front door camera, needing to confirm if it was really her. And there she was. Helen, the real Helen, crying and begging for me to let her in.
Eddie, please, let me in. That thing in there. It's the imposter.
My whole body trembled. If she was outside, then what was lying in my bed? I turned around and froze. Helen, or rather the thing pretending to be her, was standing just a few steps away, staring at me with empty eyes. I forced myself to stay calm. My friend had sent me some tools to prepare for this. Among them was a high-frequency audio file, which I quickly played. It worked. I had identified my enemy as an alternate, so a powerful UV flashlight would be useful. The alternate was trying to stop me from opening the door, and it could no longer maintain Helen's form. It appeared before me with a grotesque, twisted body. As the light from the flashlight hit it, its body distorted. its features melting into a blurry mass. It was no longer Helen. It had turned into a flickering white shadow. I remembered what my friend had told me. Between 3 and 4 a.m., the boundary between worlds is thinnest. I had to bring the real Helen back before it was too late. The door swung open as if revealing another dimension. Blinding light and a cacophony of chaotic sounds rushed at me, overwhelming my senses and leaving me dizzy. I held my breath, anxiously staring at the door, waiting for what would come next. Finally, I let out a sigh of relief. My Helen was back.
Eddie!
Helen, I missed you so much.
I miss you too.
I've always known my girlfriend Caitlin wears too much makeup. I'm not talking about a bit of mascara and some lipstick. No, Caitlin layers on foundation, concealer, and God knows what else until her face looks like a porcelain mask. It's not just her face, either. Her neck and chest are also meticulously coated, making her look almost like a painted doll. But here's the thing. I've never seen her without it. We've been dating for almost a year, and I'm crazy about her. She's smart, funny, and beautiful. At least I think she is, under all that makeup. But her obsession with never being seen without it has started to strain our relationship. She avoids any activity that might smudge her makeup, which includes not just swimming or running, but even simple things like getting caught in the rain, touching her face, or kissing for more than a few seconds. It's like she's always hiding something. One night, I decided enough was enough. We were staying at my parents' house, and I had stayed up late to finish some work. After a few beers, I made up my mind. I was going to see Caitlin without her makeup. I had to know what she was hiding. I sneaked into my mum's bathroom and grabbed some cleanser and cotton pads. My heart pounded as I crept back to the bedroom where Caitlin was sleeping. Her makeup had left orange stains on the white sheets. I perched on the edge of the bed and lightly dabbed a cotton pad on her cheek. Nothing happened. I wiped harder. Still nothing. The makeup came off on the pad, but her face looked exactly the same. I took another pad and continued, wiping the same spot over and over. Then I saw it. A patch of redness under the layers. It looked like raw flesh. No skin, just muscle and tissue. Panic surged through me. What the hell was I looking at? Suddenly, Caitlin shifted and her eyes snapped open, wide with panic.
Tom! What are you doing?
She demanded, sitting up and cupping her face. She felt the bare patch I'd uncovered and screamed.
What have you done?
She bolted out of bed and ran to the mirror, staring at the damage in horror. Then she turned to me, eyes wild.
You didn't touch it, did you?
Touch what? I stammered, utterly confused.
That!
She shouted, pointing to the exposed flesh on her cheek. I don't know, I stuttered. Why? But she wasn't listening. She tore out of the room and disappeared down the hallway. I sat there, stunned, until she came back, clutching a kitchen knife. Whoa, whoa, I yelled. What are you doing with that?
Shut up!
She snapped.
Which hand did you use?
I pointed to my right hand, too shocked to do anything else.
How long ago?
Maybe 10 minutes? I squeaked. Her eyes widened in terror.
It's too late! Your whole arm must go!
I scrambled off the bed, backing away. You can't cut off my arm!
I have to!
She insisted.
Or the infection will spread!
Jesus Christ! What infection? Caitlin, what are you talking about?
Tom, please! It has to be done now!
I wasn't about to let her amputate my arm. I fled the room, slamming the door behind me and locking it. She pounded on the door, screaming to be let out, but I ignored her. My parents, woken by the commotion, came out of their bedroom, but I told them we'd had an argument and they went back to bed. I spent the night on the couch, but I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what had happened. Why did Caitlin react that way? What was wrong with her skin? In the morning, I cautiously went back upstairs. I unlocked the bedroom door, armed with a knife just in case. But when I opened it, Caitlin was sitting on the edge of the bed, facing the wall. She had reapplied her makeup, and her face was once again a flawless mask. "Caitlin," I ventured. She didn't respond at first. Then she turned to me, eyes cold and distant.
I don't think this is going to work out, Tom.
"What? Why?" I asked, my heart sinking.
You're not trustworthy.
She replied.
You knew I didn't want you to see me without makeup, and you did it anyway.
"I just wanted to help you," I protested. "I didn't know about whatever this is." She shook her head.
It doesn't matter. It's over.
I was stunned. "But Caitlin, I love you." She gave me an eerily smile.
Yeah, well, looks like it's your problem now, too.
She handed me a bottle of foundation.
You'll need this.
She said, and then she was gone. I stared at the bottle in disbelief. What was I supposed to do with it? I tossed it in the trash and went downstairs. My mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. In the kitchen, my mum was making breakfast. As soon as she saw me, she gasped and dropped a plate. "Tom, what happened to your face?" I ran to the mirror in the hallway. My reflection stared back at me, horrified. A patch of my skin was missing, replaced by raw red flesh, the same as Caitlin's. I touched the spot, my fingers trembling. It was spreading, and at that moment, I understood. Caitlin's secret was now mine to bear. The infection, whatever it was, had passed to me. I was becoming like Caitlin, and there was nothing I could do to stop it.
Moving into Eric's house was supposed to be the beginning of a fresh chapter for us. But the moment I stepped through the door, an uneasy feeling washed over me. Eric, a talented painter, had hung his latest work in the living room, a portrait of a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and piercing eyes. From the moment I saw it, I felt a deep discomfort. The woman's eyes seemed unnervingly alive, following me around the room as if they were trying to convey something sinister hidden within their gaze. "I think it's looking at me, Eric."
It's just a painting, Jamie. You're imagining things.
But I wasn't imagining anything. Every time I entered the room, I felt her gaze on me, like she was trying to communicate something. As the days passed, I began seeing her move, or at least I thought I did. It started small, with her eyes shifting slightly in the frame. And then one night, I had a nightmare. The woman stepped out of the painting, her cold hand gripping my arm as she whispered a single word into my ear. "Run!" I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. I could still feel her presence in the room, her eyes burning into me even in the dark. I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted Eric the next morning, insisting he move the painting out of the bedroom. After some resistance, he finally agreed, relocating it to his office. But instead of feeling relief, things only got worse. Eric became obsessed with the painting, spending hours in his office talking to himself in low, frantic whispers. When he finally emerged, his arms were covered in scratches, as if he'd been in a fight. I asked him about it, but he shrugged me off, saying it was nothing, just an accident. But I knew better. I knew the painting was doing something to him. One night, after Eric had fallen asleep, I sneaked into his office, determined to find out what was going on. The painting hung on the wall, the woman's eyes now more intense than ever. They seemed to follow me as I crossed the room. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone, snapping a picture of the portrait. I quickly ran an image search, and what I found made my blood run cold. The woman in the painting was real. Her name was Anya, a young woman who had been reported missing years ago. The last person seen with her was her boyfriend, who had also vanished without a trace. There was a coincidence when I looked at Anya's picture. The earrings that Anya was wearing were identical to the pair that Eric gave me last month when we celebrated our 1-month anniversary. My heart pounded as I connected the dots. Could Eric be involved in Anya's missing? My eyes darted around the room, searching for clues. That's when I noticed a blank canvas on an easel, set up as if Eric was preparing to start a new painting. But it wasn't the canvas that caught my attention. It was the knife lying next to his brushes. A sharp, clean blade that had no place in a painter's studio. Suddenly, I felt a chill run down my spine. I turned back to the painting, and this time, Anya's expression had changed. Her mouth moved, forming the word I had heard in my nightmare.
Run.
I spun around, ready to leave, but Eric was standing in the doorway, his face twisted in a mix of anger and madness.
What are you doing in here, Jamie?
I was just... I stammered, backing away.
You shouldn't have snooped around, babe.
He said, stepping closer.
Now you know too much.
My breath caught in my throat as he revealed the truth. Eric was the one who had killed Anya, driven by some twisted obsession. But now, he needed a new muse, a new canvas to save him from his guilt.
That's going to be you, Jamie.
He whispered, raising the knife. I bolted, running out of the room as fast as I could. My heart pounded in my ears as I sprinted towards the door, fumbling with my phone to dial 911. But Eric was fast, faster than I expected. He grabbed me just as I reached the front door, pulling me back with terrifying strength. Please, Eric, you don't have to do this.
Stop it. I need a new muse, Jamie.
Just as I thought it was all over, I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. The police stormed the house, guns drawn, quickly subdued him, wresting the knife from his hand. He was cuffed and dragged away, his eyes wild with a mix of rage and despair. They took him away. As the police searched the house, they found more than enough evidence to link Eric to Anya's missing, her belongings hidden in his office, the same place where he had kept the painting. And they also found Anya's decaying body in the basement of Eric's house. I never imagined that the person I had been dating for the past few months was a deranged killer. Before I left, I turned back to the house one last time. The painting was still there, hanging in the office. Anya's eyes met mine, but this time, they weren't filled with fear or sorrow. They were filled with gratitude.